Alright, hopefully our last video with 1.8, and this is combining like terms after you use distributive properties. So I'm going to distribute the 4 to the x, and I have 4x. The 4 to the negative 6 will give me a negative 24. Now remember, when you use a distributive property, you can only distribute to the numbers inside of the parentheses behind that number. So I can't distribute the 4 to the 20. It wouldn't be right. So I'm going to just write down plus 20. And now I'm going to combine like terms. Now we already did this step at 1.7, but we didn't really understand why we were combining like terms, but now we know. Like terms can just be the numbers. So I have a negative 24 and a positive 20. Different signs, I'm going to subtract, take the sign of the bigger number. Now remember, this 4x is not like with anything, so it's just going to come over into the answer. When I subtract 24 and 20, I'm going to get 4. The bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. So 4x minus 4 is in simplest form. Now, notice here that I have 5 minus parentheses 3x plus 9 close parentheses. The 5 is not touching the parentheses. That means I'm not distributing a 5. I'm distributing a negative sign, or minus 1. So I'm going to bring that 5 over and distribute the negative to the 3x, and I get negative 3x. The negative to the 9 and get negative 9. If you distribute the 5, it will be completely wrong. So remember, the only thing that you can distribute is the number touching the parentheses, not a number on the other side of a minus or a plus sign. So let's combine like terms. I have numbers that are like but no variables. So that means that my negative 3x is going to come over, and I have a positive 5 and a negative 9, so different signs. Subtract, take the sign of the bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. The next problem has 2 different distributive properties in it. So this is going to be a little bit tougher, but we're going to take it one distributive property at a time. I have a negative 3 to the 7x, that's going to give me negative 21x. Remember, we're going to use our sign rules because this is negative, so different signs, my answer is negative. Negative 3 to the 1 will give me a negative 3. Alright, so I distributed with that first distributive property. Now we're going to distribute a negative 1. So a negative to the 4x gives me negative 4x. A negative to the negative 2 gives me a positive 2. Remember that negative changes all the signs behind it to the opposite. So I should have a negative 4x and a positive 2. Now let's look for like terms. We have variables that are like, x to the first, x to the first. And we also have numbers that are like. So let's look at the numbers that are like. Negative 3 and positive 2. So when I combine my like terms for the x's, I have the same sign. So I'm going to add and keep the sign. Remember our sign rules. So I'm going to have 21 plus 4. That gives me 25. Bring your x along for the ride, and your answer is going to stay negative. For our numbers, we have different signs. So I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. So in simplest form, I have negative 25x minus 1. Alright, the very last example for this page is this problem here, and notice that it's similar to B. So don't add these two together. You have to still use order of operations, and order of operations includes parentheses. The only way we can simplify parentheses when you have variables inside is to use that distributive property. So it is horribly wrong to add the 8 plus 11. So don't even look at the 8. If you have parentheses, distribute. I have 11 times 2y, that gives me 22y. 11 times negative 9 will give me negative 99. I'm going to bring down the plus, I'm going to bring down the 8. The only thing that we can do now is combine like terms, and the only like terms we have are numbers. So that means that 22y is going to come over in my answer, and all I can do is my numbers, negative 99 and a positive 8. Different signs, I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number is negative, so I'm going to have a negative 91. So 22y minus 91 is going to be in simplest form. The last thing we have for this section is writing words and phrases in algebraic as algebraic expressions. So this is exactly when we translated in our first section that we had using our subtraction rules and stuff. So I want to remind you there were two numbers or two phrases that I wanted you to watch out for, and it was subtracted from and less than. Now I told you the less than you probably wouldn't see as much because it was confusing with is less than. So I see in our first example we have subtracted from. So let's remind ourselves, when you see the phrase subtracted from, what's first comes last, what's last comes first. Now, I have 3 times a number. So that means that's the same thing as 3x. And we want to subtract, that's obviously subtraction, from 10. So in the correct order, you have to make the 10 come first minus the 3x. I can't do any kind of combining of like terms, so this is in simplest form. So the next one, the sum of a number and 2 divided by 5. Now the sum means to add, divided means to divide, so this shouldn't be too difficult to understand. So the sum of a number and 2 divided by 5. What's difficult about this one though is the sum means the answer of an addition problem. So that means I need to have x plus 2. That whole thing needs to be divided by 5. So you can write this 2 ways. You can write it in parentheses divided by 5, or you could think of it like this, x plus 2 over 5 in a fraction form. Both of these are correct, but if you are going to use this symbol, you have to have parentheses because the sum means the answer of this whole problem, the number and 2, and then that sum is divided by 5. So this one probably would be easier to do, but if you did want to use that other form, it's exactly the same thing. Just make sure you have parentheses. Again, that's in simplest form. We're not going to do anything with it. We have variables in our numerator, so don't worry about that one. 3 times a number, that's 3x again, added to the sum of twice a number and 6. So sum means the addition, the answer of addition problem. So I'm going to have 3 times a number added to this whole piece right here. So 3x plus, anytime that you have a sum or an answer, if you want an answer of something, you have to put it in parentheses. So twice a number and 6, whatever that sum is, I want to add that to 3x. Now, I have just a plus sign here touching my parentheses. So if I distribute a plus, it's not going to change any signs. So to combine like terms, I just remove the parentheses because it's not going to change anything if I change the sign. If you wanted to distribute a positive 1 to everything, this is what you would get anyways. Now I can combine like terms. These are x to the first power. So if I look at the number in front, I have 3 plus 2 is 5x. Bring down my plus 6, and this is in simplest form. So hopefully these aren't going to be too difficult for you. If you need any help, let me know.